Jai Shri Radhe. So Vaishnav Jai Shri Krishna. Continuing with the stories of the 252 Vaishnava disciples of Sri Gosaiji. Today is day 115 and Varta 92, the story of one merchant from Gujarat. Vav Prakash. This is a devotee of Tamasi disposition. In the eternal Leela, her name is Anandadayani, who manifests from Chabisindi and is thus a form of her divine loving sentiment. Anandadayani has one Sakhi named Sulochana, since she has such beautiful eyes. Sri Thakurji often just stares at her. This Anandadayani was born here as a merchant, and Sulochana was born as his son. The merchant was born into a Jain family in Gujarat. His father was wealthy. He was very fond of his son. When the boy was 16, he met a Vaishnava and became attracted to the Vaishnava way of life. He wanted to become a Vaishnava himself, and he asked the Vaishnava to facilitate this, explaining that he was very attracted to his behaviour and attitude. In my family, he said, no one bathes regularly. They are dirty of body. They say that they have to use water sparingly, that if any creature dies because of lack of water, then that is a sin. I do not like this path. Please help me to become a Vaishnava. Let me be your disciple. The Vaishnava replied, "Oh brother, I am not in a position to have disciples. If you really wish to become a Vaishnava, then wait for a few days, and Sri Gosaiji will be coming here. You can take refuge in him. He is the Lord himself. You will then be very content." The merchant's son agreed and asked the Vaishnava, "Please tell me when Sri Gosaiji arrives so that I might become his disciple, for which I am very anxious." The Vaishnava agreed to do so. He went home full of longing to meet Sri Gosaiji. After a few days, Sri Gosaiji arrived in their village. The Vaishnava informed the merchant's son, who then happily came to have Sri Gosaiji's sight. He said, "O Maharaj, please accept me as your disciple. I surrender to you. Please do not delay." Sri Gosaiji saw his great longing and initiated him with the Lord's name. Sri Gosaiji told him to fast for a day and then also initiated him with Brahma Sambandha. The merchant's son then inquired, "Please allow me to serve Sri Thakurji." Sri Gosaiji said, "No, not now. Your parents are Jains, and so you will not be able to at this time to serve the Lord suitably in your home. When your parents die after some time, you should now come to me at Nadel. There I shall give you some seva. Now please associate with the local Vaishnavas." Sri Gosaiji then left for Dwarka. He spent some time there and then travelled to Adel. After some more time, that merchant's son got married, and not long after that his parents died. He then travelled to Adel with his wife. The wife then also got initiated with the Lord's name and Brahma Sambandha. The merchant's son then supplicated, "O Maharaj, there are no remaining hindrances in my making seva. Please grant me some seva now." Sri Gosaiji blessed him by giving him a swarupa, child Krishna, and taught him all the ways of seva. Thereafter the merchant's son took leave of Sri Gosaiji and returned to his village together with his wife. They began to serve the Lord very lovingly and associate with the other Vaishnavas there. Not too long after that, a daughter was born to them. Part 1. The merchant's son was a very accomplished Vaishnava. After some years he went to try to find a suitable match for his maiden daughter. He could not find a Vaishnava boy for her. He did, however, find one boy who was a Jain, and he arranged their marriage. When she went to her in-laws' home, she was very disgusted by their standards of behaviour and felt sad. She did not want to eat, but she would have to. So she asked her mother-in-law to give her only one plate of food each day. The mother-in-law agreed. The girl would mix Sri Krishna's sacred foot dust that she had brought with her into the plate of food, and only then would she eat it. She only ever ate once a day and never ate anything else. She lived like this for a long time. She was so sad and said to herself, "Oh, when will Sri Thakurji deliver me from this situation?" She was forlorn. Sri Thakurji is most merciful and always protects his devotees. Seeing her grief, Sri Thakurji told Sri Gosaiji, "That Vaishnava daughter lives in so-and-so village. I cannot tolerate her sadness." Sri Gosaiji went to that village and made his camp just outside the village near a lake. On that day, the Vaishnava's daughter came to that lake to fill her water pots. She espied one of Sri Gosaiji's Vrajavasi sevaks. She stood near him and thought to herself, "Those Vrajavasi used to always come to my father's house." She asked him, "Who are you? Where have you come from?" The Vrajavasi explained that he was there with Sri Gosaiji, who had come from Gokul, and that all those Vrajavasis were with him. Sri Gosaiji would stay the day there before moving on to Dwarka. The girl explained that she was that Vaishnava's daughter, that her father was a disciple of Sri Gosaiji. She asked him to take her to have his sight, saying that she was living here with her in-laws who were Jains and that she was most unhappy in that situation. She said, "I know that if I am able to see Sri Gosaiji, then all my sadness will be alleviated." She left her water pots by the lake and went with the Brajvasi to Sri Gosaiji from afar. She bowed down to him. Sri Gosaiji asked, "Who is this?" The Brajvasi told him that she was the daughter of that Vaishnava merchant. The girl went back to get her water pots after bowing to Sri Gosaiji and then returned home. When she reached home, she began to worry. "Oh, what shall I do?" She then said to her mother-in-law, "My father's guru, Sri Gosaiji, is here in the village. Please give me one coconut to take to him." The mother-in-law said, "Let's go together to see him." The girl agreed. The two of them left the house, taking the coconut with them. They arrived in Sri Gosaiji's camp. One of his Brajvasi sevaks informed him that the daughter of one Vaishnava had arrived. Sri Gosaiji asked for them to be shown in. They entered the camp and paid their respects to Sri Gosaiji. They stood before him with folded hands. The daughter-in-law requested Sri Gosaiji to initiate her with the Lord's name and to take her into his fold. The girl addressed her mother-in-law, "Now I shall do the cooking." The mother-in-law was inspired by the daughter-in-law's wish, and she also expressed her wish to be initiated with the Lord's name. The daughter-in-law told Sri Gosaiji of her request, and he consented. The two ladies then sat in front of Sri Gosaiji, and he graced them both with the name initiation. They became Vaishnavas. They bowed low to Sri Gosaiji, offered him the coconut as their donation, and very happily returned home. 5 or 7 other ladies from that village also went with the daughter-in-law to have the sight of Sri Gosaiji, and they all got initiated with the Lord's name. They all went home to their respective husbands and told them that they had now become Vaishnavas, having been initiated by Sri Gosaiji. They said that they could no longer continue to have the same relationship with their husbands as before. The girl's father-in-law then asked his wife if he could also become a Vaishnava. He and his son's wife and daughter-in-law then all went together to Sri Gosaiji and requested to be initiated with the Lord's name. Sri Gosaiji graced them thus by initiating them. The girl then requested Sri Gosaiji to grant her initiation with Brahma Sambandha, and Sri Gosaiji graced her in this way. She also asked him to grant her some seva. He gave her some prashadi garments of Sri Navaneet Priyaji, which she respectfully brought the seva home with her. As a result, all the family members took the 2 initiations and became Vaishnavas, and after them many other inhabitants of the village also joined them. The next day they all invited Sri Gosaiji in their homes, and when he graced them with his presence, they made donations to him. On the say-so and sincerity of that Vaishnava's daughter, so many souls were accepted by Sri Gosaiji. After this, the girl began to feel great joy. In this way, Sri Thakurji alleviated her grief just after a short time. The next day, Sri Gosaiji set off for Dwarka. The girl then addressed her mother-in-law, saying that she would now like to do the cooking. She agreed. So you will notice that there was a sentence. This same sentence was in the wrong place shortly before in this reading. This is where it should appear. The girl then addressed her mother-in-law, saying that she would now like to do the cooking. She agreed. The girl cleaned the whole house and offered the pots and pans. She prepared some offerings and presented them to Sri Thakurji. When the appropriate amount of time for the offering had passed, she accepted them back as prasad. She told all the family members to do as she had done. She settled Sri Thakurji down to rest and fed everyone with the Mahaprasad. She did all the seva herself, and everyone followed her example. After some days, they all reached a level of accomplishment. Her father-in-law and many other family members discussed between themselves that the grace of Sri Gosaiji and Sri Thakurji upon them and their acceptance had come along through their connection to their daughter-in-law. Everyone began to respect her as a great Vaishnava and a senior member of the family. Bhav Prakash. This story teaches that the Lord is soon pleased by those who truly yearn for him. A Vaishnava should always yearn for Sri Thakurji. Thus concludes Varta 92, the story of one merchant from Gujarat who was an accomplished Vaishnava and the recipient of Sri Gosaiji's great grace. Concluding the story here, we continue tomorrow with Varta 93. Aaj ke Anand ki jai ho, jai jai Shri Radhe, sab Vaishnavan ko jai Shri Krishna, Shri Vallabhadisha ki jai ho. Jai Shri Radhe.